Hello and welcome to the Interior Design Business. My name is Jeff Hayward and I'm here with my co-host, Susie Rumbold, past president of the British Institute of Interior Design and creative director of Tessuto Interiors, in front of a live audience of designers here at Decorex 2025. Today we will be exploring whether interior designers are delightful, diva-ish, or simply too impossible for contractors to work with.
Outrageous.
Outrageous. Interior designers have a bad rep on building sites for being demanding, difficult, and disorganized. But is this fair? Designers have a huge responsibility for delivering complex design information that can be built by contractors, and contractors have a huge responsibility to deliver quality projects that can be used, enjoyed, and maintained by their clients. But in their drive for perfection, are interior designers their own worst enemy? Do designers efficiently provide the information needed by builders, or do contractors sometimes willfully misunderstand their design intentions? What can designers and contractors do to make each other's lives easier? And who is really to blame when relationships sour and things go wrong on site? Welcome to the Interior Design Business.
So to help us find the answers, we're joined by renowned interior designer Joanna Wood, founder of Joanna Wood Interiors, and Paul Fitzgerald, who is founder and managing director of Hawksmoor Construction. Welcome both to the show.
Thank you very much.
So before we begin, I was hoping you might be kind enough to just give us both a brief introduction to yourselves and your companies and the sorts of projects you do. So Joanna, would you like to kick off?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joanna Wood, and I run an interior design company in the heart of Belgravia, but we work throughout the UK, and we also work abroad. We're currently running jobs in as far apart as Canada and Saudi Arabia. So we've got a team of about a dozen in the office, and we count ourselves as being interior architects as well as interior designers. Paradoxically, I am the least trained person in my office. But I've been doing it for 40 years. Large jobs, small jobs, very, very large jobs, new build jobs, restoration jobs, listed jobs, stately home jobs. So take me on, Paul, because I can write a mean specification.
Okay, and Paul.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Fitzgerald. I'm the founder and the managing director of the Hawksmoor Construction Group. Hawksmoor Construction is our main trading business. We specialise in prime and super prime residential construction projects. We also do lots of eco-friendly property development. And more recently this year, I'm not sure if you're aware, Susie, but I do a lot of business coaching as well. So I've started helping a lot of other contractors like myself who started coming off site, no idea where to start in construction, and certainly no idea how to run a business. So,
Wonderful. So I'm going to start with a really easy question for you, Paul. How do you feel when you find out there is going to be an interior designer on a project?
No comment. In my experience, I'm sort of 10 years into running the construction business now, and Susie, it was probably 10 years ago we met, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I've never really had, probably the worst guest here today, but I've never really had a terrible experience, because I think a lot of it comes down to communication.
Okay.
So ultimately, in a construction project, whether you're an interior designer, an architect, the contractor, or the guys on site, you put these people into this house, and all of a sudden everyone expects everyone to get on famously, without being friends or relations or anything like that. So, me personally, I'm more than happy when interior designers are there. I think that sometimes the problem comes when there's a crossover between roles and responsibilities.
You're not just saying that because of the audience we've got in front of you.
No, generally. So I think
I can see we might have a lynching party going on.
Yeah,
presently.
so for us as a contractor, we should be a contractor. We shouldn't try to take over the design, if that makes sense.
So do you think it's true then that interior designers have a bad reputation amongst contractors? What sort of things do they get accused of?
Yeah, I can speak for the industry as a whole, from what I hear through the grapevine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're representing all contractors today, Paul, you know that.
I'm fighting the corner here for everyone, but ultimately I think there can be a lot of ego sometimes on a project, whether it's from a design stage, whether it's a contractor on site, and I think sometimes egos get in the way of good quality work, if that makes sense. So But I think if you iron out expectations from the start and you work together as a team the whole way through the project, you're going to have ups and downs on every single project. No project is seamless. So.
And is there anything in particular that interior designers do get accused of?
Maybe sometimes. When,
Go on.
He's being so
He's
diplomatic.
bashful, isn't he?
I want to make it out of here alive. Yeah. It's in my personal experience. When we have had issues, it has been when something is designed and we can't build it for whatever construction reason, whether it's from a structural perspective, a building regulation perspective,
Shortage of skyhooks.
shortage of sky hooks, whatever it may be, and then there's no give from the design side, and sometimes it's I don't care, I want it, and it's like, okay, well, it's not me saying that you can't have it, it's building regulations or the structural engineer, we have to do something a different way. That's when I think the clashes can happen.
Yeah.
But as long as a design team and a contractor, you stick together and you find solutions together, there should hopefully not be too many reasons to fall out.
Do you think there are any preconceptions out there about interior designers? Like, I don't know, maybe because contractors have seen stuff on TV and they think all interior designers dress and behave like Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, for instance. No offence, Lawrence.
I don't know. I wouldn't say so. No.
Okay.
I personally don't watch any construction on TV, and the only way I could describe it is like everyone loves grand designs, for example. But
Yeah.
when I'm working in construction all day, the last thing I want to go in my downtime is go and watch grand
Ditto.
designs
Couldn't agree with you more.
and look at other people's problems in
Yeah.
construction projects.
I start
So-
shouting at the telly.
Yeah, so it kind of stresses me out when I see clients making mistakes that happen all the time, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
me personally, I don't watch construction on TV. I have enough of that in my day job. I hear through other contractors that there's problems on other jobs, but I think that's just down to miscommunication more than anything.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, final one on this little section. Are all interior designers created equal, Joanna?
Definitely not, she says immediately. I would like to sort of start with a conclusion, which is that there are good builders and bad builders. There are great contractors who really want to make something work, and there are some really dire ones out there. And I'm sure that the designers sitting in the hall here will have had bad experiences with contractors. So I'm going to kind of slightly twist this the other way. And some really great designers sometimes have to work with some really rubbish contractors. And I think that quite often problems can occur when you've got inexperienced interior designers trying to throw their toys around and go, yeah, I want that cornice to run around that room, and the contractor goes, well, you know, it's 380 deep, and by the way, you've only got this amount, and the junctions aren't going to work or whatever, and the designer won't then learn and look. We're all on a learning curve all the time. I mean, I have been on building sites for 40 years, and I still learn something every week, every day, every month.
So
And
true.
we've all got to keep our minds open, and that's from both sides of the spectrum, actually. And at the end of the day, I think contractors are much better off dealing with professionals in the middle, because God help them if they're dealing directly with some poor lady who's, you know, the first thing she's done is watch the telly and seen grand designs, and the second thing she's done is spent an afternoon at Chelsea Harbour Centre thinking, you know, a basket full of samples equals a colour scheme. The answer is no, it doesn't. And, you know, Susie, you've been president of the British Institute of Interior Design. I've been a member of and a fellow, you know, my whole career. And, you know, my advice is that interior designers need proper qualifications, need proper education, need experience, and need to get out there and learn before they get on site and start throwing their kind of weight around. And that on the other side, contractors need to listen and understand that there are gradations of designers. I mean, in another world, in another life, I would have been an architect. So construction, building, you know, I can agonize about how a skirting hits a plinth block. I mean, it'll keep me awake. I'm kind of obsessive about it. But there are other people who just go, no, I want to get the look. And I think that there's a lot of give and take and a lot of working around, you know, the problems and the issues. What I find normally happens when problems occur is generally when you've got a client that starts changing their mind, and very often that is the interior designer not handling the client expectations, or the contractors being a brute and he's got another job to finish and there's, more money riding on it, or, the program is, oh no, we can't do that. And what he really means is actually the plasterers are on another site and they won't be here until 2 weeks on Monday. So guess what? We're going to have a program. And it's kind of, those kind of interfaces can be really annoying.
Yeah.
You're nodding your head, Paul. In
Yeah.
agreement.
How long have you got?
Yeah, I think ultimately, as I think I touched on the point earlier, interior designers are incredible at their job. Even whether they're juniors, they've got vision, whether they're more seniors. It's the problems that in my experience, that I've had when jobs have not gone wrong, because we've always finished every single project, and it's when you have a difficult client and an interior designer who is not necessarily experienced in how to manage that client and manage their expectations and set clear boundaries. And as a contractor, then it's very difficult for us to sometimes operate the site when somebody is moving the goalpost, for example. But ultimately it comes down to regular communication. We have a set structure that we like to follow on projects. You can have all the systems in the world, but ultimately you have to deal with people.
Yeah.
As long as you can be you have good people skills and you can work your way through most problems without screaming or shouting or throwing your toys out the pram, 9 times out of 10 you can get to a successful result on the project, whatever it may be.
Joanna, do you think that contractors have changed the way they operate over the last 20 years?
Oh, very much so. I mean, much more. The whole industry is so much more contractual. I was talking to a prime property agent last week about a project that's going into the marketplace, and he was saying, you have to understand that this price is reflecting the fact that in central London we're putting down an increase in budget of between 40 and 50%, which is utterly staggering. The cost of raw materials, the cost of wages, the cost of just coming into London, thank you, Mayor, is a nightmare. I mean, for you guys to bring a van into central London is 120 quid a day now.
It's crazy, yeah.
Parking, if you're trying to park in Westminster. The whole sort of exponential cost of working in central London has gone absolutely through the roof. So, if us designers are working on things that were budgeted, shall we say, I mean, sometimes with permissions and things, Susie, you will know, we can be putting a budget on the table, but we've then got to get listed building, planning, whatever, and we're working on it a year later. Materials, some certain costs have increased. I mean, it was an absolute horror story after lockdown because everything shot up and then went back down again partially.
I remember, Paul, having a conversation with you about the price of a sheet of plasterboard that had gone from something like £3.20 to £13.50 in the course of 12
That's
months.
because of the Ukraine war.
And I think a lot of
Ukraine
contractors
now.
actually went bust during that period because they were trying to finish fixed price contracts, and the price of materials had gone up so much that they simply couldn't deliver and stay in business.
Well, shuttering ply wasn't available for a while.
No.
It just there was none in the marketplace.
When plaster wasn't available in the whole UK,
absolutely.
And you could only buy 5 bags at a time. And you imagine a typical site that we do, there might be 300-400 bags that go into a job. So I had my guys in 10 vans every morning going to different suppliers.
Your wife, your mother, your auntie.
Every person on a daily basis, just to get 5 bags at a time. That was crazy. But thankfully we're through that now. So
crazy. So let's go to the tender process, Paul, because that, I think, is probably the first engagement you have with the designer. What are the key things that you're looking for in terms of design information when you start pricing a job?
All our commercial team is in-house, so we don't outsource any of our pricing. So we like to get a real handle on our costs. But I think the tendering process is also very difficult for a contractor because we have to, it's part and parcel of the industry, but we have such an upfront cost, even at tender stage, and especially if it's open tender. A typical tender can cost me sometimes £4,000 to £6,000. And that doesn't mean we win the job either. So if I'm with labour and my estimator, commercial manager, assistant surveyors, site visits, getting all our supply chain to cost. So the more information we have at tender stage, the better. Detailed layouts, sections, elevations, a really detailed finishing schedule and stuff like that as well, electrical layouts. But that's the perfect world that we don't live in.
I was going to say, what are you smoking, darling?
Yeah, we don't always get that information.
Elevations of every piece of, I mean, the 10-bedroom house, we'd love to do that.
Sadly, our clients won't pay for it.
And then the client goes, no, I'm actually not expecting a budget of $2.5 million here. Get rid of the gold leaf, Joe,
No, and I think for us as well, it's when we price a job, certainly in the last 2 years, it's been very slow to get projects to site. Historically, you price a job 4 or 5 week period, you win the job in the next 2 to 4 weeks, how quickly can you start? That was kind of the first 7-8 years of my running the business. The last 2 years, it's okay, great. We're going to go through this value engineering process because the costs are so high on every single project. It doesn't matter if it's a £100,000 job or a £5 million project. Every single project is getting value engineered back down to a manageable budget that clients comfortable signing up to. So that sometimes takes 3, 4, 5 months.
At which point the prices have all changed again.
At which point your prices have changed. Now we clarify as a contractor that our prices are valid for 60 days in our tender return. But if you then start going and repricing the job, you have this catch-22 situation of, am I still going to win this project? So you then might win the job at that point. The project might not start on site for 4-6 months. It's almost been 6 to 12 months since you priced it. And some of that work that you've priced at tender stage, like some cornicing, for example, which comes in typically pretty late in the project, might not start until 75% of the way through the project, sorry. So you've priced it almost 18, 20 months ago, and these guys, you're then trying to make the numbers work at the back end of the project. So it's so hard on fixed price contracts without putting massive buffer in, but also trying to stay competitive to win the work as well. So it's like a catch-22.
Understand.
Yeah. Don't you find at the very high end, though, fixed price contracts are quite rare, or you'll do a fixed price for shell and core, and then you'll have more flexibility with fit out. So that's what we mostly find.
So we used to do a lot of cost plus work, fully transparent, fully open book.
Yeah, I like
and,
that.
And about 75% of our revenue was open book cost plus, and that just allows us to do our best work all the way through the project. And
that's how we've always worked together.
And when we buy 50 sheets of ply in January, or we buy it in November, the client is always getting negotiated trade rate plus our markup and our attendance, if that makes sense. But almost a lot of that in the last 2 years has just gone from the market. It's almost impossible to talk anyone into it anymore, just for risk management.
Really?
So but it's starting almost the conversations, because I feel like salaries and investments have started to catch up again. People are starting to open that dialogue again about cost plus work, and there's more people that have, a lot of architects and interior designers that we've worked with that have had bad experiences because of budgets, that are now very open to that way of working again, because it just allows, it almost de-risks it for the contractor, but also allows the client to get the best quality work all the time. So
okay.
So, and do you think it's possible when you get that tender pack from the designer to predict what the designer's going to be like to work with from the quality of their information?
As in like a new contact, a new designer?
Yeah. Someone you've not worked with before.
I've had great designers that we've worked with, great people that we work with, that have given us maybe less than great information up front. I've had designers that have given me incredible information up front that have been very difficult to work with. So there's probably catch-22.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, there's no sort of set way. In a perfect world, as I said, you'd have all the information up front, and we can cost as accurately as you need. But obviously with the transparent open book way, it doesn't really matter how much you get up front, because you guys can release it as we go through the project as well, to save you having to do all that design work up front. So,
well, the word that's missing here is quantity surveyor, and we are, on projects over a certain size, certainly projects over about $500,000, we now like getting a QS in, and we like building in contingencies for, when inflation was going through the roof. We definitely needed, we were doing a new build house in Hampshire that we knew was going to take 18 months. And we were coming out of lockdown. So we absolutely needed to have budgeted in, and the client we needed to make the client aware that we were budgeting in for inflation. There was a certain time in the industry where costs went through the roof. It was a really lousy moment to be doing your house. Some poor clients got really hit, and then it went back down again. Of course, Rachel from accounts has screwed everything up again with all the insurances and the costs of employing everything. In fact, she never obviously got as far as accounts. She wasn't good enough.
good, yeah.
Sofas and Stuff believe great design begins with choice. They partner with designers to create personalised, made-to-order furniture crafted to enhance the way people live and feel in their homes. Each piece is handcrafted to order by their makers in Preston, with thousands of fabrics, including exclusive V&A and RHS collaborations. Their 25 UK showrooms offer expert support to help bring design visions to life. Sofas and Stuff believe distinctive spaces are shaped by distinctive choices. And that's what they mean by choice, not compromise. It's the freedom to bring genuinely personal designs to life. Discover more and find out about Sofas and Stuff's trade membership, The Upholstery, at sofasandstuff.com. As a designer, how do you feel about working with an unknown contractor?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Time will tell. I've got to be very honest here, and I wonder what the other designers in the room feel when we get to Q&A. But I like working with, the quote, better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
And I also find that, we do small jobs and medium-sized jobs and large jobs as well. And I like selecting a contractor. And very often, as interior designers, we're on the front row. So the client comes to us because they want, a Susie house or a Joanna house. That's why we're in the frame. And, sometimes there is already an architect and a QS in place, but more often than not, there isn't. And so we'll go through the introductory process of saying, well, you might want to work with, architect 1, 2, 3, and then pulling their work up on, or, and presenting, maybe meeting. Or if it's depending on what the project is, if it's fit out, if it's London rather than new build country, you don't then need it. We'll use a different sort of architect. We'll use an architect that does exactly what he's told, and go. Could you here's the sketches, here's our CAD drawings. Please go away and turn that into a series of working drawings. Or we'll be working with one of the big ones, the Robert Adams or the Barrett Lloyd Davises or whatever it is. But then next down the line, you then need your QS, and again, if it's a job over a certain size, a project manager. But in my time, I've acted as a contractor too. Back in the day, I had some builders go bust, and I picked up a team of Irish guys. My then husband was a property developer, so at one stage I ran about 14 of the boys.
Did you enjoy it?
Well, it was quite fun. The decorators were from the East End, so they were the Cockney lads, and all the heavyweight were Irish. Yeah. It was a laugh, I'll tell you that. But I mean, it was quite something. I mean, and it was sort of there wasn't quite so much health and safety, and should we do a risk assessment for climbing that ladder, or opening that pot of paint or whatever it is. Yeah. And we did quite well for a while. But what we then found very difficult to get past the critical mass was you then needed the infrastructure that you now have in place, which is the pricing,
the team,
the QS, the in-house team on that. And so we let the contractors go, or we put them in with a project manager and cost plus, and took it out of sight. The professional indemnity was getting bigger and bigger, basically.
You raise a really good point, though, that it's hard for the battle, I think, sometimes with smaller jobs and therefore smaller contractors, is that they might be extremely good builders, but often they just don't have the time to do the paperwork or be paying attention to the details. And that puts an additional burden on the designer then, which obviously they won't have covered off in their fee proposal. So, sometimes you get a client who will dump a contractor on top of you because they've, it's someone that they've been recommended, and perhaps
they really like Terry. He saves them before Christmas when their heating broke. That's the worst.
That's the worst.
Yeah,
and they're not up to the job.
Or they're local.
Or they're it's a real problem.
Yeah, no, that can be an absolute nightmare. So the answer is, I do try and use my tried and tested, the people I like, and it's very much horses for courses. And like it's
what
designers.
Sort of due diligence do you, if in that situation where you are finding yourself in a position where you are going to be working with a new contractor that you've not encountered before, what sort of due diligence do you do on them?
I go, could you please show me 2 of your projects? And ask to go round something that they've done. And, you can't necessarily tell what the mechanical and the electrical's like, but you can certainly see the quality of the joinery. I'm a joinery nut, so that's very important to me. And you can see, you can gauge the level. You can gauge whether the level of the finish, the level of the construction, the level of the install is what you believe your client's looking for or not. And sometimes it's too high spec. You don't necessarily need the Gucci Poochie of contractors just to build a small extension, and it ends up being too expensive and not right. It's about a marriage. It's about getting the right team for the right project. I think that's so important.
Joe, do you ever advise your client not to engage a contractor? Present company accepted, of course.
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do they listen?
Absolutely.
All the time? Do you want me asking?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do.
That's good.
Yeah, they do. I don't think I've ever been it was one of the questions. I don't think I've ever been forced to work with a contractor, because if we as a team go in and go, we don't think they're up to your job, It's going to be very expensive at the end of the day. We'll do everything we can, but we don't think that it's going to be the right finish, the right look. Then, as a general rule, that's why we're there. That's why, we're professional interior designers. People come to us because we know what we're doing. Bloody well hope so after all these years, anyway.
One would hope so. Has that ever happened to you, Susie?
Yeah, it has. It has happened to me.
You were
on several
forced to work with
occasions,
somebody?
actually. Yes, I've been forced to work
Was
with
it a
someone.
disaster?
Inevitably, or extremely, not a disaster. We've always finished and we've always got the project delivered, but it has been excruciatingly painful to get there.
I mean, I think, and Paul, basically, if an interior designer wants to really screw up a contractor, they can be awful. No, that's not what I meant. I wanted the stripes to be 1 millimeter wider than that, or it's the wrong this and the other. I mean, designers can be ridiculous, but contractors can too.
Of course, yeah.
Especially if they've underpriced the job and they're hunting for the money. When a contractor is short of money, too low a budget is always a disaster. If you've got a job that you were expecting it was going to be 100 grand and suddenly it's 70, there is something wrong. There is a right price. But in these difficult days and this economic climate, what is actually happening is that contractors are pricing below market rate and sometimes below cost for a job. And that can always be very, very dangerous. That's really, really a worry. Which is when, as a designer, if one is ever worried about something, that's when sometimes it's worth getting, a QS. Even if you say, I'm going to employ you for 6 hours to look through
An
this.
outline cost plan for £1,000 is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Totally.
Paul, have you ever refused to work with an interior designer on a project?
After working with them for the first time, yes. For a second time. Because like you said earlier, we're not right for every interior designer, and every interior designer wouldn't be right for us, same as clients. So like you said, there's certain level and certain standard of projects, and where we like to position ourselves in the market, we want clients that value that as a service as well. And we just recently, literally week just gone, lost out on a project, large value. We were loosely told we got it 2 or 3 months ago, and the contractor that's been appointed is almost a one-man band, and the value of the project is over 2 times his biggest yearly turnover ever.
No, it's never
Whoa.
going to
He was about 40% cheaper than us, and we were in the middle out of 4 or 5 contractors. So the interior design on that project was Hawksmoor recommended, let's go with them, but obviously it was a large sum of money that the client couldn't get their heads around. So for me, I'm not sure why. So in my experience, usually when we tender through the process, we are the preferred contractor from the design team that's putting us forward, but clients don't always listen to interior designers or architects in my experience.
And 40% is a lot.
They're
Is that
usually
too
the jobs
much?
that I hear about going wrong a year later, 18 months later, if
Correct,
it even gets that far sometimes. So
I think that it's also very important. Sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
To look at your contractor and see what they're registered with.
Yeah.
Who always check their insurances. If they've only got insurance for £500,000 or something, and you're in an apartment that's worth God knows what,
10
or
million.
even £1 million. You need to be very sure that they're covered, that their standard is correct for the job that you want, and that they are a member of some form of organisation, which is why I come back to the British Institute of Interior Design. Big plug here for our institute, which is incredibly important because to clients and again to contractors, there is a standard of excellence there that is guaranteed within that institution. And I think that that's an incredibly important point.
Good point. So, Joe, has the designer-contractor relationship, do you think, changed over recent years? I mean, would you say it's easier now working with contractors, or more difficult, or?
I don't know. I've always ended up with really good relationships with my contractors, and I work with some people that I've worked with for literally decades. I mean, if you get a good relationship, if you get a shorthand going from both sides, you can go, we need radiator casings, and they're going to look like that, but the grill's going to be different. Here's. Do you remember we did them in whatever it was? Bingo, great. 2.5 grand each, off we go. And it's done, and everybody knows what's expected. So there is a relationship that's really important, and down my team, that's also important. I need my juniors to get on with the contractors.
And What do you think, Paul? Do you get on better with designers now than perhaps you did 5, 10 years ago? What's the...
I think it comes down to that people management style. So in the early years of running the business, I think a lot of contractors operate on good faith. And I certainly historically have done that, and working with Susie and stuff. When people stand by the word of what they say on site, and when you get the email 2 or 3 days later, it matches that sort of that conversation that you had, and then you can proceed on that basis. But not everybody operates like that, so we've completely changed how we operate. So I was tinkering around with building a project management software for about 2 years until a situation on the job a couple of years back, and we really went heavy on this project management software just to get everything in writing. So we will never do anything outside the drawings, anything outside the scope, without having it in writing off either the designer, the architect, or the client, basically, just to cover ourselves. Even if something doesn't match on the drawings, we won't build it. We will always RFI it. We will raise the question externally just to cover ourselves, basically. So.
God, RFI.
Well, it slows things down.
Yeah, I mean,
but then I
I'm
think
a great believer in sorting things out on site and then doing it through multiple RFIs. I mean, if as a designer you end up with that kind of contractor who, you get 25 RFIs for something that could be sorted out with just move it quarter of an
2
inch to the
inches to
right.
the left.
Yeah, that's kind of, I'm already feeling cross.
Would that be fair though? Because like you say, because you have the ability to deal on site and resolve them issues on site. As a contractor, if we had someone like yourself, I was at Susie and her team are the very same way. We can resolve it on site. We don't have to go through that process, but not everybody operates that way. And someone will say, well, I said this, or a site meeting might be, we'll go to the top floor of the house, we'll walk through every single room in the house, we'll be told everything verbally, and we'll get to the end of the meeting, say an hour later, and there's no person in the world that can remember every last little bit of conversation.
No, we do minutes.
Every instruction. So, but again, some interior designers don't do minutes.
Yeah,
so we kind of minute them ourselves as well, you see. So
always do minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that, Susie and I are agreeing. I think one of the questions is, how often do you need to go to site? And throughout the entire process, say you've got a 10-month long project, we will go to site. The team, we will probably have 3 people in the office working on that job, might be 4. My biggest job had 11 on it. And we will send the senior to site every other fortnightly, and probably the person who's running the job on a day-to-day basis will go weekly. And what we do is fortnightly minuted meetings, and then we do the interim is what we call a walk around, and there might be heads or it might be pushed forward to the next RFI or whatever, so that there is never more than a 7-day period without somebody there to answer queries. And that absolutely pushes the program along, pushes the speed along, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do a job without going at least once a fortnight. When we walk abroad, when we're working abroad, and we obviously can't do the walk rounds and things, we'll still do FaceTime walk-arounds.
Absolutely.
Literally. We've just been doing a job in Montreal. We had weekly meeting, Thursday afternoon, designated hour and a half. The contractor, the project manager, client, us, and it was a super job. It worked really well. We went out twice only.
So then as a contractor, what are the things that designers most often forget in their specifications and documentation, or perhaps don't allow for adequately?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's your biggest bugbear?
If there's no M&E designer and you haven't got M&E plans, and you might get design intent, so you might get a lovely layout for lighting, which is fairly easy to follow, but sometimes small power. It's very, very rare you see few spurs on things, and obviously power for bathroom fans, all that sort of stuff. Be quite rare that you see that on drawings. Normally you'll see the bathroom fan labelled. M&E can sometimes not be given enough space in plant rooms and stuff. You might be given a 600 by 600 cupboard to fit a megaflow in, and you need a minimum 750 by 750 as a bare minimum, especially with the pipework and stuff. Underfloor heating manifolds can sometimes just get tucked in the corner when they need to be serviceable, they need to be removable.
Yeah, you learn the access panel kind of drama early in your career as a designer.
FCU access panel, so air conditioning sometimes.
For everything.
Yeah.
Bathtub, I've got, I'm an aren't you? The bitter experience. Absolutely. Access everything.
Yeah.
Client ringing you up going, my bath's overflowed. How do I turn the water off? As an interior designer, I don't know what you guys find, but I find you are expected to be everything. You're
Yeah, you're
expected to
master
know
of everything.
everything about
Encyclopedic.
everything.
Yes.
You know, specialist in aircon, specialist in absolutely everything.
And as a designer, Joe, what do you do if a contractor is ignoring what you're setting out or the details that you're specifying? How do you persuade them of your point of view?
Oh, kneecaps, elbows, starvation,
The Irish back in again.
that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know who I am?
That's when the diva comes out, yeah?
That's when, listen, it's unacceptable, Paul. You do not go off-piste unless...
You're telling me off
you're
here, I haven't worked with you yet.
Yeah.
Do you like?
I'm getting the lecture and I haven't been on the site yet.
You know,
you
that
like
is
have
the
a-
most irritating thing. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if you say this is the proportions of my bookcase, and they go, well, it was easier to build this bottom section 900 high, and it's this too big, and the whole proportion's gone. Absolutely no, not acceptable.
Do you have like a traffic light system where you start off green, maybe a bit of charm, orange is starting to get a bit angry, and then red you completely lose it? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of try and send in whoever's running it, and I go, no, just you go and tell. I don't try, and actually, I never lose my temper, but it'll go like this. It'll go. Could you tell them that, could they have another look at that? Do you know what, it would be a good idea. So I'll send somebody off to do it, and, they'll come back and go, well, it's in now, is it okay? That's the classic, isn't it? It's done, and it's in, and you go, but I've just checked the drawing, and it's here at 750, and you've made it at 900, so the proportions are wrong. So probably, one of my designers will go in and go, could you? And somebody goes, no. And I am the last point. And I always go, tell them I'm going to be really terrifying if they really mean that they want me to come down to site. So hopefully I don't have to get that across.
Okay.
Would it be fair to say, would it be fair to say that if you had the right contractor, hopefully that wouldn't happen as well?
It wouldn't have happened, yeah.
Could you sign off drawings in advance and you build to the workshop drawings, for example?
Having said that, there are times when genuine mistakes have been made, and on both sides, if that happens, I would expect a contractor to pull me out of a hole. We make mistakes, and vice versa. So, if we can make it work, okay, so the proportion's wrong. Tell you what, let's adjust the skirting. We'll pull it down so it'll look right. We'll do a recessed plinth instead of a, 280 skirting, and it'll be fine. And then we've worked
that again
out.
comes down
and that
to
kind
experience.
of,
Collaboration,
that's how you get on a site. That's how you work, and it looks beautiful, and the client never knows.
I think there has to be a certain amount of pragmatism in some of these things because Paul, do designers sometimes need to let their tiaras slip a little?
I didn't understand what that question meant, Paul.
After sitting here with you, Joanna, I can definitely understand here. So, I think it comes back to the point we just touched on there, that when problems happen on site, you have to stick together as a team and collaborate, and obviously we always sit the client on a pedestal over there, and as much as they're the ones employing us both to give them an amazing house, the way I see it in business is they're going to employ you once, maybe twice in their life. It's the design team that you work with repeatedly, maybe 3 jobs a year, 4 jobs a year, so you have to stick together as a team, and when problems happen like your recess, we're going to make mistakes as contractors, an interior designer is going to make mistakes, an architect, there's nobody perfect, and there's nobody that can envisage every last aspect. So the problem comes when compromise needs to happen from one or both sides, and some people are not very good at compromise, and I think as long as people are willing to compromise, sometimes us on affordability, and we have to do something that we're not necessarily getting paid for, but maybe sometimes because the mistake has happened, there has to be a design compromise as well.
Yeah,
and as long as you could deliver something beautiful for the clients, and as you said, the clients sometimes never know. They walk in the house and they're starry-eyed, then that's a win.
That's the win.
So. What's the funniest, maddest thing a designer's ever asked you to do or asked you for?
How can I be diplomatic here?
So diplomatic, Paul.
We were once on a project a couple of years back, and there was quite a large delay on the program caused by the joinery company that the designer had brought in.
Joinery, isn't
Always joinery.
it? Yeah.
So the job had increased in scope. Client knew all about it. Client was very happy to increase the scope and that sort of stuff, but because of that, the designer had missed a slot of the joinery company. So come to the crux of the project, and we're kind of, there's only so far we can do our work to the point until the joinery goes in so we can finish rooms and close them out. So rather than telling the clients that the joinery was delayed again, the designer told the clients that because it was such a hot summer, the paint was drying too fast. So we were having to repaint the whole house. So I got the phone call, I got the phone call and said, if the clients ring you, make sure you say this. And the clients are top-level lawyers. They're very, very smart people. So they rang me and said, don't lie to me, Paul. You've never lied to us yet. Is it the paint? And I said, well, it is hot outside. I'll give them that. But there might be a few other reasons. If you just have a look on the program, maybe you can work through it. And they were like, is it the joinery? And I said, look, no comment. I'm not here to manage you guys. So the joinery's coming in 4 weeks' time. As soon as it's in, we'll do this, we'll do that. So I always think honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, sometimes these clients are, especially at the level of projects that we work on.
They're not stupid.
They're very wealthy for a reason. They're very smart. Yeah. They know what they're doing in life. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. So if there's a problem on site, you just own up. We've made mistakes in the past, and the earlier you show accountability and you own that mistake or that situation, the easier it is to resolve. The problem happens in situations like that when a lie is like a snowball rolling down the hill. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. Yeah. And the further it goes down the hill, the more annoyed the client's going to be. So
that's great advice.
And Joanna, what's the craziest thing that a contractor has ever done on one of your sites?
Well, I was kind of thinking about this as I was driving up this morning, and I actually remember one that really sort of blew me away, which was that we were doing a house in Chelsea which was amazingly almost derelict and was incredibly damp and had been lived in by a sort of old lady for 150 years. And you went in, and I don't think she'd ever been down to the basement, and it was practically earth floors, and it was, the plaster was falling off the floor, whatever. And I remember walking around with the contractor, who was a lovely Polish guy called Pavlos. This was about 15 years ago. And I had my structural engineer with me because we wanted to open plan the basement, put French doors onto the garden, guys, the normal thing. And it was so wet. And the structural engineer went, well, we can do this, but listen, Joanna, we've got a real problem. We've got a load of dry rot here, a load of damp. The thing is absolutely, look at it. And there was mushrooms and stuff, coming off the wall. So I went, okay, this is going to be, bigger and worse. And how far has the dry rot gone? And we walked through to the back, and we came through to the front again. And there was Pavlos picking the mushrooms off the wall and eating them. And I promise you, Sam and I looked at him and went, it's not that bad. Don't worry. You do not need to commit suicide yet. We'll be all right. This is a seriously true story. You simply could not make this up, could you? And he went, no, darling, it's delicious. Risotto tonight. Okay, and we got rid of the dry rot and the house got built.
Yay.
It was a worry.
Oh, dear.
Yet again, you leave me speechless. Round of applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna and Paul, for your time today. Brilliant and entertaining, just as I hoped it would be. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's been fabulous.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you also to Decorex for hosting us here today at London Olympia. And a final thank you to you, our audience. We do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please do get in touch on our social channels at Interior Design Business Pod to share any feedback. The Interior Design Business is a Wildwood Plus production. Thank you.